On Christmas Eve, Dele was full of excitement. He had set out his special coat, eager to wear it for the big day. He imagined how happy everyone would be, and he couldn't wait to celebrate with his cousins and family. As he climbed into bed, he smiled, dreaming of the fun and laughter that awaited him. But as soon as Dele closed his eyes, he felt a strange, prickly sensation. It was as if something was watching him. He tried to shake it off and focus on his happy thoughts, but the feeling only grew stronger. Just as he was about to drift into sleep, a cold breeze swept through his room, making him shiver. Dele sat up quickly, looking around his dark room. The breeze seemed to come from nowhere, and he noticed that his new coat was moving slightly, as if someone invisible was touching it. His heart began to race, and he felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. Suddenly, the room was filled with soft, whispering voices. Dele couldn't understand what they were saying, but they sounded urgent and worried. The whispers grew louder, and Dele felt a growing sense of fear. He tried to call out for his mother, but no sound came from his mouth. In a panic, Dele leaped out of bed and grabbed the coat, hoping it might be the source of the strange disturbance. As he held it tightly, the whispers stopped, and the room fell silent again. Dele's hands trembled as he tried to understand what was happening. The coat felt heavier than before, and he wondered if it held secrets that were yet to be revealed. Dele woke up in the middle of the night, and something was terribly wrong. He couldn't move his arms or legs. It was like he was stuck in his bed, even though he tried so hard to move. His heart was racing, and he felt a deep, scary feeling in his chest. The room was dark, and shadows danced on the walls. Dele tried to call for his mom, but no sound came out of his mouth. The fear made his breath come in short, fast gasps. Then he heard it, a low, whispering voice. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The whispers were soft, almost like a secret, but they felt so creepy. They seemed to say things Dele couldn't understand, but they made him feel even more frightened. As he tried to break free from the invisible force, he noticed a strange glow coming from the coat he had bought. It was hanging in the corner of his room, and the glow seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. The whispers grew louder and more urgent. They felt like they were trying to tell him something, but Dele couldn't figure out what. Every time he tried to move, the pressure on his chest grew stronger. He could almost see dark shapes shifting around him, as if they were alive. Dele was scared and confused, unable to understand why this was happening or what the whispers meant. Time seemed to stretch on forever until, just before dawn, the invisible force suddenly released him. Dele sat up, drenched in sweat, his heart pounding in his ears. He knew he had to find out what was going on with the coat and why these terrifying things were happening. When Dele woke up at dawn, he felt a little dizzy and very scared. The house was so quiet, not even a sound of a Christmas song or the smell of breakfast. Dele noticed something strange, his mom and cousins were missing. He quickly got out of bed, hoping it was just a dream, but it wasn't. Dele ran from room to room, calling out, "Mom! Cousins!" But there was no answer. The house felt empty and cold. The Christmas tree stood alone in the living room, its colorful lights blinking like tiny stars, but no one was there to enjoy it. He checked the kitchen and the dining room, looking for any sign of his family. The table was set for breakfast, but the food was untouched. It was as if everyone had just vanished. Dele's heart beat faster. He remembered the weird things that happened to him the night before. The whispers and the glowing coat came to mind. The coat was still hanging in the corner of his room. He felt a shiver run down his spine. Could the coat have something to do with his missing family? Desperate and frightened, Dele grabbed the coat and examined it closely. It looked normal, but something about it seemed off. The coat's glow was faint now, but Dele felt a strange pull, like the coat was leading him somewhere. With his heart pounding, Dele decided to follow the pull. He had to find his family and figure out what was happening, no matter how scared he was. Dele stepped outside, his breath visible in the chilly morning air. The streets were lively with Christmas cheer, but something felt wrong. He asked his neighbors if they had seen his mom and cousins. They smiled and wished him a Merry Christmas, but their smiles faded when he mentioned his missing family. One neighbor, Mr. Thompson, looked puzzled. "I thought I saw you and your family leaving the house together early this morning," he said, scratching his head. Dele felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He couldn't remember leaving the house at all. Had he been sleepwalking? Dele's confusion grew as he moved from house to house, asking for information. Another neighbor, Mrs. Lee, told him she had seen him and his family walking towards the park. Dele's heart raced. He knew he hadn't gone to the park. As he searched the park, he felt more and more desperate. The swings creaked gently in the breeze, and the playground was empty. The snow crunched beneath his boots as he looked around, but there were no signs of his family. Dele's mind was racing. Why did people say they saw him with his family when he didn't remember it? It felt like a strange puzzle with missing pieces. The coat he had brought with him felt heavier in his hand, almost like it was trying to pull him somewhere. Feeling both scared and determined, Dele decided to retrace his steps. He had to find out what was happening, even if it meant facing things he didn't understand. The coat seemed to be his only clue. Back in his room, Dele laid the coat on his bed. As he carefully examined it, he noticed something strange. There were muddy stains all over the coat, stains he was sure hadn't been there before. His heart skipped a beat. The coat, which had once brought him comfort, now seemed to be hiding secrets. Dele's mind raced back to the eerie feeling he had during the night. He remembered the shadows and whispers that had filled the dark. The stains on the coat seemed to connect with that terrifying experience. Why was his coat dirty, and how did it get that way? He ran his fingers over the stains, trying to figure out where they had come from. Suddenly, he noticed something even stranger. The stains formed a pattern that looked like words. As he squinted, he saw the words "help me" faintly outlined in the muddy splotches. A chill ran down Dele's spine. Was this a message? Who could have put this on his coat, and why? He felt a growing sense of dread but also a strange urge to uncover the truth. His family was still missing, and now he had this unsettling clue. Determined to get answers, Dele decided to follow the path that the coat seemed to point him towards. He grabbed the coat, feeling its weight, and resolved to solve the mystery of the stains and the disappearance of his loved ones. The day was turning into a puzzle he had to solve, and the coat was the key. In his desperate search for answers, Dele wandered through the village, hoping someone could help him understand the mystery of his missing family and the strange coat. He came across an old woman sitting by a small, flickering fire outside her cozy cottage. Her eyes were sharp and knowing, and she seemed to be waiting for him. Dele approached her cautiously and told her everything that had happened, the coat, the stains, and his family's sudden disappearance. The old woman listened quietly, her face growing more serious with each word. When Dele finished, the old woman took a deep breath and began to speak in a low, mysterious voice. "That coat you have," she said, pointing to the coat draped over Dele's arm, "is not just any coat. It is cursed. It belongs to a restless spirit that can control those who wear it." Dele's eyes widened. A spirit. But why? The old woman's face was grim. This spirit was wronged many years ago. It now seeks to bring misery to those who come in contact with its possessions. It has the power to make people disappear and create chaos. Dele's heart raced. "You mean the coat is responsible for my family vanishing?" The old woman nodded. "Yes, and it can be stopped, but you must act quickly. The spirit will grow stronger as long as the coat remains with you." Dele felt a mix of fear and determination. He knew he had to get rid of the coat to save his family, but the idea of facing a restless spirit terrified him. He looked at the coat with renewed dread and steeled himself for the challenge ahead. The old woman's face was shadowed by her hood, but her eyes shone brightly as she spoke. "This coat, Dele, it's cursed. Long ago, a man was betrayed by someone he trusted deeply. A powerful witch, angered by his betrayal, trapped his spirit in this coat. Ever since, the coat has carried his pain and anger. Dele felt his stomach twist. So the coat is haunted. But why did it come to me? The old woman leaned closer, her voice lowering to a whisper. The spirit seeks those who are feeling strong emotions. It finds people who are missing something or who have a deep connection to the past. Your excitement about the coat and your memories of your father made you a perfect target. Dele shivered. The coat had seemed so special, so full of promise. Now it felt like a heavy burden. What does the spirit want from me? It wants to escape, the old woman said. It causes chaos and fear to weaken its victim, hoping to break free from its eternal torment. It has taken your family to use them as leverage. Dele's heart raced. What can I do to stop it? How do I get my family back? The old woman sighed deeply. You need to confront the spirit directly. But be careful, it will use your deepest fears against you. To break the curse, you must face the spirit in its strongest form and find a way to release it. Dele felt a mix of fear and determination. He knew the task ahead would be dangerous, but he had no choice. He had to find his family and put an end to the spirit's suffering. With a deep breath, he prepared himself for the challenge, ready to confront the darkness that had invaded his life. Dele hesitated before putting on the coat. It felt cold and heavy in his hands. The old woman had told him to wear it to find his family and learn the truth. With a deep breath, he slipped his arms into the coat and buttoned it up. Immediately, a shiver ran down his spine. At first, Dele felt nothing. But soon, he noticed something strange. His body started to move on its own. His legs walked, his arms swung, and his head turned, all without his control. It was as if the coat had taken over his body. Dele tried to stop, but he was trapped. He could see and hear everything, but he couldn't make his body listen to him. The coat led him through dark, narrow alleyways and down deserted streets. Every time Dele tried to pull away or stop, the coat tightened its hold, dragging him further into the night. The eerie darkness seemed to wrap around him like a shroud. As they walked, Dele could hear faint whispers and see shadowy figures darting in and out of sight. The whispers sounded like angry voices, accusing and tormented. Dele's fear grew. Where was the coat taking him? What would happen when they arrived? The spirit seemed to guide Dele toward an old, abandoned building. The once grand structure was now crumbling and covered in grime. Dele's heart pounded as the coat made him move closer. He knew he was getting closer to the truth, but the spirit's grip on him was getting stronger. The sense of urgency and dread built up inside him, as he feared what awaited him in the darkness. Dele felt his heart race as the coat dragged him deeper into the forest. The tall trees loomed overhead, their shadows dancing eerily in the moonlight. The forest was dark and thick, and every time Dele tried to look around, the coat pulled him in a new direction. He could barely see where he was going, and the path seemed to twist and turn endlessly. The sounds of the forest were strange and unsettling. He heard rustling leaves, distant animal calls, and the occasional snap of a twig. Every noise made him jump, and the darkness seemed to close in tighter with every step. Dele tried to keep track of time, but it was hard to know how long he had been walking. It felt like hours had passed, and the forest seemed to stretch on forever. Just when Dele thought he could take no more, he saw a flickering light in the distance. The coat pulled him towards it, and he hoped it might be a way out of the forest or a sign of someone who could help. As he approached, the light grew brighter and revealed a small, old cabin hidden among the trees. Its windows glowed with a warm, inviting light, but Dele's fear made him hesitate. He was being dragged closer and closer to the cabin, unable to resist. The spirit's grip felt almost desperate, as if it knew something important was inside. Dele's anxiety soared, wondering what awaited him in the cabin and if he would ever escape the coat's control. Dele arrived at the old hut, his steps heavy with dread. The cabin, hidden deep in the forest, was covered in thick vines and looked abandoned. Its windows were dark, and there was no sound coming from inside. Dele's heart beat loudly as he hoped his family might be there. The spirit inside the coat seemed restless, pulling him toward the hut's creaky door. As he pushed the door open, it groaned loudly, echoing through the silent forest. Dele's fear grew stronger with every creak. Inside, the hut was dark and dusty. Broken furniture lay scattered around, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling. Dele looked around desperately, hoping to find a sign of his mother and cousins, but there was nothing. The only sound was the soft rustle of leaves outside and the occasional drip of water from a leaky roof. Dele tried to speak to the spirit, asking for help or guidance. He pleaded, but his words were swallowed by the oppressive silence. The spirit's grip on him tightened, making him feel trapped in his own body. He struggled to move, but it was as if invisible chains held him in place. Suddenly, a faint light flickered in the corner of the room. Dele's eyes widened as he saw an old, dusty mirror partially covered by a cloth. The light seemed to be coming from behind it. With the coat controlling his movements, Dele was drawn toward the mirror. As he approached, he wondered what secrets the mirror might reveal and if it would hold the key to finding his missing family. The spirit inside the coat guided Dele through the dark and musty hut, pulling him from room to room with no clear direction. Dele felt like a puppet, unable to control his own actions. Each room they entered was filled with old, broken furniture and dust-covered relics. Despite the search, there was no sign of his family or any clue about what the spirit wanted. Dele's frustration grew. His heart pounded with fear and desperation as he realized that they were no closer to finding his missing mother and cousins. The spirit seemed to be in a frenzy, its movements erratic and urgent. Dele's mind raced, trying to piece together what was happening, but the more he tried, the more confused he became. As nightfall approached, the darkness in the hut seemed to close in around him, making everything feel even more sinister. Shadows danced on the walls, and the creaking of the old wood seemed to grow louder, echoing through the empty rooms. Dele felt a deep sense of dread. The longer they searched, the more it seemed like the hut was hiding something important. Suddenly, the spirit stopped in front of an old wooden chest in one of the back rooms. It was locked and covered in dust. Dele's heart skipped a beat. Could this chest hold the answers he was looking for? The spirit seemed to urge him to open it, but Dele felt a cold shiver run down his spine. What if the chest contained something even more dangerous? As night settled in, the spirit guided Dele to a second hut deep in the forest. This hut was smaller and seemed more ancient than the first. Dele felt a chill run down his spine as they approached. The spirit, for the first time, did not push Dele towards the hut but stood back, staring at it with an expression full of sorrow. Dele could see tears welling up in the spirit's ghostly eyes, making him feel a deep, aching sadness. Dele was puzzled. Why was the spirit so sad now? He felt a strong connection to the spirit's emotions and knew that this was important. With trembling hands, he slowly approached the second hut, trying to make sense of the situation. The air around the hut felt heavy, and the forest seemed to hold its breath in anticipation. When Dele reached the hut, he noticed something strange. The door was slightly ajar, and a soft, eerie light flickered from inside. Hesitant but determined, Dele pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was filled with old, dusty items, but what caught his eye was an old portrait hanging crookedly on the wall. It showed a man who looked exactly like the spirit in the coat. Dele's heart raced. Could this man be the same one the spirit had once belonged to? He felt a mix of fear and curiosity as he approached the portrait. Just then, the hut seemed to come alive with whispers and shadows, adding to the tension. The spirit's tears flowed more freely, as if it was trying to communicate something important. Feeling lost and desperate, Dele remembered a special song his father used to sing when he was upset. With a deep breath, he began to sing softly, his voice trembling but steady. The song was simple, with a melody that had always brought him comfort. As the notes floated through the air, something magical happened. The spirit, which had been overwhelming and heavy, seemed to calm down. The spirit's tears stopped flowing, and its presence grew less frightening. It felt as if the room itself was breathing more easily. Dele continued to sing, and as he did, he noticed a change in the spirit. The air grew warmer, and the dark shadows that had danced around the hut seemed to recede. Suddenly, A soft, almost whisper-like voice spoke. "What is this song?" it asked, its tone gentle and curious. Dele hesitated for a moment, then answered, "It's a song my father used to sing to me when I was scared. It always made me feel better." The spirit's voice grew even softer, filled with sadness and nostalgia. "This song, it reminds me of someone I once loved. Long ago, I lost someone dear to me, and the memory of that person was tied to this song." Dele felt a strange connection forming between him and the spirit. Both had experienced loss and cherished memories. As the spirit spoke of its past, Dele realized they shared a deep, emotional link. This revelation brought a mix of relief and new questions. What was the spirit's story, and how could this connection help him find his missing family?